A hello to you, Alex. So, pre recording, I asked how your day was, and it seemed like you're quite excited to tell me. So, I told you to hold it until we began recording. So, now, let me know. How was your day?
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been very exciting. I've mentioned it in the chats with the others, and it's been incredibly hectic. It's been so much, like my dad used to say it, good problems. You have good problems because it is about how the company has kind of boomed up in the last few months. It's been going from, 10 to 20K to now like 60, 80K in a month. And I'm like trying to keep up. So yeah, good
Mm.
problems.
Okay, so quite a bit to dive into there, starting with the company. When did you start it?
So I started it is it 2.5 years ago? Yeah, it is. No, wait, actually 1.5 year ago. I'm like messing things up. Yeah, it is actually just 1.5 year ago I started it.
Mhm.
Obviously, I was interested in 3D before then, which is what I'm doing, and that's when I started it. I dwelled a little bit into it back and forth when I was 16, not really that much, and then at 19, I took it a lot more seriously. Start to selling a little bit of intros, a 3D intro here, for small teams, mostly in the esports division. At 21, I won a competition that made me join Faze Clan. So that then skyrocketed my, 1K a month to more like 2, 3, 4K a month. And ever since then, it's just been growing more and more and more. I took in more people,
Mhm.
delegated, the whole process in the real world. Freelancing campus,
Mhm.
they speak about all of that. Delegate tasks, hire other guys, create a team.
Sure.
And from there to, I guess, July of last year, that's when I joined back when it was called HU, Hustlers University 2.0, I believe, specifically.
Mm.
And I joined the freelancing campus. I was like, all right, you know what? Let me see what this is about. Is this something I can learn from? Because I wasn't a beginner necessarily. And then I went through the early stages that Dylan Madden had there. And since I've been through the whole freelancing process, I was like, okay, well, is there some credibility here? And yes, all the stages that I saw, the 10 stages, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I've been through. Everything is exactly how I can remember from experience through trial and error. Yeah, I'm like, all right, yeah, okay. So despite all the controversy online, yes, they do know what they talk about. And the people who go against, at least in the freelancing campus, they just haven't tried enough or haven't been through it. But from my experience, yes, everything noted there, that is exactly how it was. So then I started listening to Dylan and I was looking more into the higher up, how do you say? Not necessarily,
More advanced material.
yeah, more advanced material, a little bit more about the company side, the sales, how to talk, trying not to stutter, how to be more exciting, and all of those areas. And then a little bit
Mhm.
specific about people management, which isn't as common on the more basic courses.
Yep.
And there's so much to talk about, so I tried to compress it down, that whole story.
Mhm. So, in terms of figures, maybe before you joined the real world to now, how much could you contribute to the real world in terms of scaling?
So I can pretty much guarantee that one of the projects we landed, there was a specific thing that Dylan taught that I would pretty much say, okay, that is 25K right there. He was telling me about the whole process of, how to delegate this task, how to set up the company using a holding company next. And we were specifically talking about the UAE. So that process has going through. He also told me about setting up a trust and how you can kind of like borrow your items tax free. So that's been something I've talked about with my accountant, and that's been going through. So just by that, by tax savings alone, if you count that in, that is many 100,000 right there. Something that I never thought about before Dylan mentioned it. The 25K that is specifically from the How to Stop Stuttering, and that's, which is a very recent course he made. So that happened, I believe, couple of 3 or 4 weeks ago. Maybe it's been 5. It's kind of hard to keep track of just that one. But the client specifically said, "You know what, Alex, you sound like you know what you're talking about, so we're going to trust you compared to the other clients." And I was like, "Dylan, you legend."
Yep. So you're saying Dylan told you this directly, as in the previous things about taxes, other things, or was it more of a lesson he done?
That was more one-on-one. We were chatting. Yeah.
One-on-one. So for $50, you got access to, well, multimillionaire one-on-one, huh?
Yeah, so definitely. I don't know necessarily why. I did end up as a captain on the freelancing campus. So back when the agency chat was still up, I was posting a bunch of lessons in there. I also post sometimes on the video chat lessons before they got then moved into being part of the courses in the top left corner. When they were there open, I did a lot of that, and I'm guessing it is because of some form of credibility and the really high wins that didn't allowed me to have a one-on-one chat with him. He actually gave me work as well, which we completed for him. So it's not
Nice.
only been tasks; it's also been doing things for him, helping him out. As Colston mentioned, when Colston said, "All right, well, if you're going to be a captain and you get to have this one-on-one with Dylan, you need to help him out." And of course, I think he has helped me out way more than I have him, though. So I'm in huge debt.
Right. Nice. I mean, that's a great relationship to have as well. That being able to give back to people who have helped you a lot. I'm sure that felt great. So now moving on to what did you expect when you joined the real world? In terms of, did you think that things would play out like this? Did you have other expectations?
So when I first joined it, I was a little bit skeptical, as there it was still that Tate was still controversial back then, as he is today. Maybe a little bit more today than he was back then. But he was still a controversial figure. I did enjoy the more hard side of teaching because I'm from a Muslim family. My family is very traditional. And I've enjoyed a hard teacher. So seeing how harsh and how truthful Tate was, that messaging, it really is that resonate the correct word?
Yeah, it
Yeah, it really
resonated. That's
resonated,
right.
and that pushes and motivates me forward. Hearing all of the bad things said about the real world, I was like, all right, well, it's $50. Let me see what's up. Let me actually see what's up. And there were so many campuses. I'm a person who failed school. I dropped out at 16, so I have no diploma. I have nothing to my name when it comes to education. So I've been a person that teach yourself on your own. And that's how, when I went through all of, just saw the heaps of information through all the campuses, and being a person that assumes that they're going to be all by themselves, right? I went into this assuming that, all right, I'm going to expect zero hand holding. And when I just saw the amount of information, I was like, this is more than anyone will ever need. Like, if you just, take the time, read it, and then leave the real world and go apply what you have in life. That's how I looked at it. Went in the real world to learn, left the real world to go apply what I learned. And obviously, going a little bit back to the whole thing that I've been through the freelancing process. So just seeing that automatically, it was one of the first things I saw because I joined the freelancing campus first. That made me just see that, okay, well, I believe this. Other people may not
Right.
have I don't know, they haven't been through that part, so they may think that, all right, well, this is sketchy, it doesn't work. I've tried for 1 week. Why does my copywriting not work?
Right. So you're saying a lot of information. How different is it compared to maybe what you can find out on the internet?
It's different in the sense that, with, well, I can answer for the freelancing section specifically. You don't really know what to do. Like, there's no one to guide you anywhere when you're on your own, right? So, for example, DMing people, which is, the tactic I also used, it might not be that obvious. Some people may say, oh, well, let's email them instead. Sure, it might be more professional that way. But nowadays, DMing, it's such a quick thing. You can get through so many really, really quickly. And then there's the whole, all right, pick a skill. Maybe as a freelancer, you didn't even know that you were supposed to pick a skill. Didn't even know what freelancing was. So I like the fact that with the PDF page, it like guides you in a certain direction. Like, okay, this is the way to go. It spreads out from there, but you have to go this way right here. And that I think is the biggest difference. That here it is much more centered in the freelancing aspect of working. Meanwhile, out there, maybe you'll find something you absolutely don't need.
Right, right, right. Okay, so I'm wondering, has your average day changed at all now compared to before you joined the real world?
Yes, it has actually, both in ways that are really good, in ways that probably are a little bit unfortunate, but I accept. I have a lot less free time now. Back then, I was helping out in the freelancing campus a lot. I was helping Dylan a lot, and I was being a lot more active as a captain should do. But after, Dylan gave me a couple of one-on-ones, helped me out with the business, and it's been like exploding, and everything has been going so well. I've had a lot less time to, not just for the real world, but really anyone. I barely go out unless my business partner goes out to drink with me. I don't go out to drink either. Never by myself, only with him. Although he doesn't have all the time in the world either, so we end up maybe just going once a month. Some trivial things like I completely forget birthdays to anyone now or any important dates. It's all just like trying to keep up with the growth of the company. So anything that I consider not important just gets forgotten now. Maybe this is just the whole part of being successful, but friends have been lost. You level up to the next level, they don't follow with you, so now you don't really have much in common to talk with them or any about. I used to play a shit ton of games. I still love gaming. I think it's a lot of fun, but yeah, one doesn't get so much time anymore. I do love the success more than I love gaming, so it's a pick and choose.
Right, right,
So
right.
I guess that would be the biggest difference, just spending more time on the company than anything else.
And what would you say to people who would call that excessive, working so much?
I would say they're right. It is excessive because it's not for everyone either. I know people who they're happy with what they have, right? And that is good too. Like, all the power to you. Whatever you're happy with, of course. I would call that success as well. Some people prefer all of their friends. And yeah, the group that you want to be with, if that's what you prefer, then technically you're successful because that's what you want, right? But if I'm loving it, which I do love this, and I'm okay with, what I have to give up, then I would also consider that successful.
Mhm.
Is it excessive? Is it over the top? Is it stressful? Is it hard? Yes, it absolutely is. It is, long nights. It sometimes is days where you're so tired of work and you kind of hate it a little bit. But that was a really good question. That was a really good question.
In terms of the sometimes hitting it, I felt that, but it's because I know I've had a lack of sleep, so I'm more easily maybe agitated. And when I have like some better sleep, I understand that. I mean, yeah, it was just, I mean, I don't know. I got lost in that, but I think you know maybe what I mean. Maybe it's different for you though. I just know I need to push through that day where I have less sleep because I know in a few days I'll be seeing it differently from a different
Absolutely,
perspective once
absolutely,
I'm fresh again. That's what I was trying to get at.
absolutely.
So yeah.
I fully agree with that. Fully agree.
Mhm. And I mean, realistically, what else are you going to do? I mean, you said you enjoy gaming, but or maybe not. But how else can I phrase this? So people, let's say, who would prefer to sit on a couch and maybe just watch Netflix to relax, I see that as it's just rotting your brain. You're just turning it off, and then you'll kind of feel like shit long term as well. So, I mean, when I'm working all the time, it actually feels so much better just long term. So it's more like sacrificing short term for long term. And yeah, then just my days, I wake up with energy. I'm motivated, everything. Maybe not motivated, but just ready to take on the day.
Yeah,
Whereas if I was to so called relax, it would be a completely different energy level. I don't know if maybe you've experienced that as well.
absolutely. It is how, like, when you're winning, it's like you never get tired.
Hmm.
And then, you work hard, you get your win, you feel energized, you love the feeling of winning. Then you end up working a bit more, but you remember the feeling of winning. And you know that, as just getting through this, that's kind of like the reward in a way that I enjoy a lot
Hmm.
more than the reward of, watching a show or playing a video game.
Right, right, right. Okay, so now moving on to what kind of an impact would you say the community within the real world has had on you, if any?
Uh, that one, I might be a little bit surprising, but I went in assuming that there was going to be absolutely no hand holding.
Hmm.
So I also went in kind of not really paying attention to the more public chats.
Hmm.
So I wasn't really active there. I wasn't really doing much there. It's kind of in take the courses, see what I can learn, and then leave, which is a very different. I've seen a lot of people there, especially the moderators. They're extremely active on the real world, which I don't know. Maybe I'm not enough in here, or maybe just the whole, learning on your own thing that I haven't really been part of more community areas of the real world. I do see
Hmm.
them, but on my end, I haven't paid much attention.
That's completely fair. And you still managed to scale everything and grow, learn new insights
No,
even
that's
without
what I
being
absolutely
engaged with
love
the
about the
community.
real
So,
world, which is, you can interact with absolutely no one and still make it out amazingly.
mhm.
Yeah,
Right,
that's been
right.
my favorite part about how the real world is set up.
Mhm. What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced when you first started freelancing?
It would be the 2 years of barely any money. It was just 2 years of barely. This is, I guess it was a little bit easier for me because this is also, my passion at the same time. Some people say, follow your passion. Others say, don't follow your passion. But for me, it was a bit easier pulling through the very difficult first 2 years because I also enjoyed doing it. So I was doing it a lot on my free time, trial and error, always wanted, to make better work and to make more realistic work. So it was gonna, be more believable, better looking, more enjoyable to watch. I wanted to become a movie director. That's been my main thing. I lived in a really, really small town and they didn't really have many people that shared my interest in making movies. So I was like, okay, well, there's no one I can make movies with here. So what should I do instead? Oh, 3D. Technically, I would kind of not really need that many people. I can do a lot on my own there. So I then shifted to movie making to then 3D animation. And I guess because of that passion, it's been easier to push through those hard times of almost making no money, no one being interested in you, but still trying to improve and get better until, the work you do is starting to challenge the others in the field. But yeah, I would put that as the most hardest part, the no money
Right.
and still doing it.
Right. Makes sense. I mean, and that's the thing. It requires a lot of upfront work, but then if you know you're heading in the right direction, then eventually you will hit a point where you'll get exponential growth. So I'm pretty sure you've been hitting that now, right?
Yes, now it's been in the esports, studios are struggling a lot because now, teams have been laid off, people have been laid off. Esports has been hit really, really hard lately. And especially the team I worked for, Faze Clan, their stock market is just plummeted. It's been going horribly bad for them. So studios, I've noticed around in the Twitter is mainly where you notice this kind of thing. I've noticed that other 3D studios, they're like looking for work. They're struggling to find work. No one wants to hire them because esports, there's not really much profit in there anymore. It's kind of losing market. And seeing that our studio is able to go past, the boulder of studios that can't or that people don't want to hire, and we are on the other end of studios that, all right, well, we want these guys' work. And being on that small percentage of those that survived that hit, I think, I'm really happy about that.
Why do you think the esports scene is plummeting? Because I haven't been in touch with it for a while now.
At least a big mistake that Faze Clan made, the team that I worked for, was the originals. They don't really know fully how to run a company, so they hired more older people. They called them suits. That's their nickname they put for them. Basically, corporate people that run companies. Now they are not really in touch with the specific, like the Faze Clan. It had such a specific Call of Duty culture. That was, that's why people loved Faze Clan. And they were not really in touch with that culture. So they made decisions that they thought would benefit the team, but no one was really interested in. For example, hiring Snoop Dogg to be part of Faze Clan, which that was all we did. We made one announcement video for Snoop Dogg and we never heard from him ever again. There was no partnership deals, there was no brand deals to try to generate revenue from his name. We just spent a bunch of money apparently making him part of the gaming organization, and that's it. That's where that stopped. So it's been a bunch of like decisions that didn't make sense, and I believe Faze Clan lost 130 million in 3 months, every 3 months, quarterly.
And this is all public information,
Yeah,
right?
that's public
All fine.
information. It's all out there.
Okay. Cool.
And when it comes to share profits, it's more like if you compete in the biggest games, League of Legends, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, and when you compete on the top end, all right, that's where you make money. But it's not enough for very large companies, sadly. And Faze Clan, they have been bleeding really hard. 130 quarterly. That's like insane.
Right. Interesting. They used to have a good CS:GO scene, right?
Yeah, and they still do. They won the major a couple of weeks back. So they still
Oh
have
wow.
teams that are doing great. They still have areas that they're
But it's
keeping.
not enough to compensate for all the other areas.
No, sadly not. It's been too many bad decisions that has been making Faze Clan bleed.
Interesting. And would you say it's been similar with the other organizations as well? The people maybe hiring corporate and corporate not being in touch, or would have been maybe different things?
Maybe. Obviously, I don't know that much. Well, the others, they aren't public companies in that sense, that they went public on NASDAQ. But I've seen some teams completely get, the whole team got removed. They announced like layoffs of 40 people. I think all the big teams, I've seen some kind of layoff. So everyone is kind of, not making as much. So that's been my hint that, all right, the whole industry has been hit. And when suddenly everyone is starting to show signs of losing money, investors start to like pull out faster and faster. And then, they lose even more money, and then investors pull out, lose even more. The most recent news is TSM. They've been hit and they're maybe selling their league spot. I believe there's some number maximum spots you can be in the video game League of Legends on playing on the top end, and you can sell your spot. And selling your spot is seen as one of the like most shocking things you can do, and they're maybe want to do that because of losing money.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I would have expected this scene to be growing, but
It was
whatever
for
reason, yeah.
it was like for 5-6 years it was growing rapidly, and now it tanked. For maybe it's been investors maybe pulled in more than what the scene was able to make.
Maybe. Okay. So now getting back into
Yes.
the real world platform. Quite a detail, huh? Didn't expect that. Okay. So what would you say have been the 3 biggest lessons you've learned from your time within the real world?
So the first one that comes to mind definitely is the talking point, the trying not to stutter. I may still do that occasionally, but you should have heard me a year ago. I was the rapper of ums. Another aspect was, well, this one is this was also a one-on-one with Dylan, which was I was in a period where there was no work, and all my people that worked for me, they were on their tasks, so they were doing their tasks. I was supposed to wait for them, and then all the clients that was supposed to answer me, they were now taking their time to give feedback, and it was this awkward 3-4 day period where there was absolutely nothing for me to do. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't really take in more work because I'm expecting, people to come back to me very soon. So it was just 4 days of, what am I supposed to do now? Now what? So I was bored for 2 days, and then those 4 days turned into 5, and it was expected to be another day. So it's almost a week of absolutely doing nothing. And when you're so used to working, on your company all the time, even 2 days seems like, all right, well, what's going on? Am I losing money? Am I going under? Even though it's just 2 days. So I asked Dylan, and he said, well, do anything. I was like, what do you mean? Well, do anything. And it's really weird, this one, but it was a valid thing. Like, have you taken and looked around if you can clean? I was like, no. So then I looked around. All right, well, I'm going to take this example right now. Okay, this. I should probably throw this away. It's empty now. And there was like, all right, just find anything to do. Kind of like find work if you can.
I
Just
mean,
find
Tate
anything.
says the same thing. You can always find work to do.
Yeah. So then it was like, just look around. What can you do to like, even 1% was for. So It would be anything. It was clean, take out the trash, do this, do that. Um, Maybe change out the old light bulb that is in the back room that no one really cares about. But overall, these 1% improvements, they add up eventually. So if you do many, many 0.1% improvements, eventually it's 20% improvement. And also the whole aspect with cleaning is that the environment, it's much nicer to be around in now. You know, you feel a lot better being in a clean environment, working in a clean environment than a messy one. Sure, when it gets hectic, it does get a little bit messy, but it's cleaned up right afterwards once we're done. And the lesson there was to pretty much just do anything really, just find something. If you look hard enough, you will find something that can be done. And that lesson has been sitting with me that if there's nothing to do, then, you know, from the client side, the more big tasks, then go down in the lower levels and just find anything you can do there. And that's where that lesson has allowed me to do a lot more kind of like back end stuff, if that makes sense. Nothing like directly, you know, gives money, but it makes working here a lot easier. So it indirectly contributes to how well we work. And then
And third thing?
third thing, that one goes a little bit advanced again with the whole. Yeah, there's a specific part of. Yeah, there's a specific part of it I would like to give specially credit for, and that is how to talk to clients and how you have to speak a certain language with them. That I've noticed, and that Dylan has been talking a little bit more about how, especially in the 3D field here, you know, what we do is technically art, you know, monetizing art. So the artists, they talk a certain way, and there's a certain way to talk to them to get them to, you know, do what you want. And then there's a certain way to talk to clients. You know, you can't talk like a artist to a client. They won't like understand. And that specific part, Dylan was also teaching, you know, what kind of language do they speak? I had it recently when this is actually a good example to bring up. One of our animators, we were supposed to do, there's this fight moment with two characters. One of them has one certain kind of weapon they wield and a gun. The other one has a different kind of weapon and a gun. It's still an NDA project, so they're saying it vaguely. And the animator was like, "Oh, why can't the other person have the gun instead? Because the weapon fits better." I said, "No, no, no. This is the client's IP. We can't do that." "Oh, but can't you push them either way?" I was like, "Well, what do you mean? You can't say that to the client. This is their IP. This is their character. So you just have to deal with it." "Oh, so clients have an ego." And that's what I think it hit me the most. Like, oh, yeah, artists, and you know, you can't talk to a client this way. And artists, they usually have this, you know, the grasp. Like, this is their art, and they have a certain way how they want to see it, and they don't want to let go of that. I used to have that as well. When I heard, you know, how he was talking, I was like, that was me many years ago. Heck, that was me 9 months ago. I remember a scenario. So that's been one of my recent things I've learned that I want to give credit to Dylan as well for. The whole that there's a certain way to talk to clients, there's certain things you can't say, there's certain things you just have to accept and deal with and be happy about. And yeah.
Interesting. I'm learning quite a few new things myself here. So interesting conversation. Okay, now since you're on this trajectory, where do you see your company and maybe your life heading in 6 months to 1 year?
So I'm hoping, well, hoping. I think I will be able to hit 1 million in under 2 years. I've already passed in a single year. Well, 2 years ago, we did 240,000. Last year, we did let me count, 590. Yeah. And this year we're just about to break the 250 mark. I like to put I'm like, okay, well, maybe 1 million now, but no, I'm trying to. All right, 2 years. So that's where we're headed currently. We're going away from the esports market because that one seems to be tanking really hard, and now slowly going over into the more commercial one where they're selling actual real physical items, and now doing the 3D animations to market those instead. And I guess, actually, yeah, it's a shocking thing. Well, I guess it's not that shocking, but it's shocking for me is that I have been so used to the esports market that it's important to have the spotlight. You need to be a little bit famous to earn good money there. They need to know kind of who you are. So having such a public image and brand that people know and recognize, that is very important. But now in the commercial side, it really doesn't really matter that much who you are. It's like, okay, can you do this for us? Can you do? Yeah, yeah, okay, very nice. We will order this from you. And there's heaps of money in there, and that was actually kind of interesting. You don't have to be so in front in the spotlight. It's kind of like the connections you have. It's kind of on the quiet side. It's the marketing agency. They are the spotlight, but you still make tons of money, even though. At least I find it a little bit easier now that we don't have to focus so much on, oh yeah, so very hard on branding to the point where you were supposed to be Nike in the esports market.
Right, right. Very interesting.
Well,
Okay, so usually I say I'll do a follow up with people in about 3 months. Maybe in your case, it's obviously takes a bit longer to scale,
yeah.
but if it scales faster, be happy to do that follow up
All right.
even earlier. So yeah, I do look forward to that. Now, another question outside of the real world, I'm wondering, is there any more to say on what kind of an impact Tate has had on you personally?
Oh yes, both to me and my business partner. We were in Stockholm half a year ago. I was running the sister company of. Yeah, this is actually a funny story as well. After the success of my personal company, I was then hired to run a different company at the start of last year, so 2022. And I was running that sister company for half a year. It went very well. The team there, very good people, amazing people. I did eventually leave because I missed running my own company. It was more like a personal thing. I don't know. I never liked, I've nothing against looking up to people, but being told all the time what to do, it made it feel like a job again. Meanwhile, the more my own brand and where I'm on top, now it feels, I enjoy it. It feels like joy. I love this. I love this position. So we had this moment where after I left, I was like, the second day went by and I was kind of like chilling in my apartment. And then it hit me, wait, I have no source of income anymore. There is no safety net. There's nothing like that. And then the feeling from half a year ago when I was running my own company, that nostalgia feeling came back to me where there's no safety net. If you fall, you fall. And I just remember having this huge grin on my face, like, yes, this is good. Burn the boats, as they call it. And when I joined then, I had previously bought courses from, actually, I knew Tate back when his YouTube channel hadn't blown up yet. I was watching him rolling around in his Bugatti. And this was before he got famous, so I kind of knew who he was. And I bought a couple of his courses. And one of the ones that I enjoyed the most was the Iron Mind. And then I was like, all right, who was one of my friends. So he was more on the a little bit slacking end. You know, he enjoyed Netflix, etc. He joined me in continuing with my company, and I showed him, you know, Tate. I introduced him to Tate because Tate had this very direct way of talking, which I enjoyed. And we then, back then, his the HU courses. This was before I joined HU, but he had his 100 business lessons. Those got leaked on YouTube. So, and it was like, I think it was several hours long. I think it was 6 hours or something. 100 business lessons, I thought. All right, well, many people say that. Me and Donny, we sat through them all in the course of 2 days, and we were like, wow, it was some of the best. Because I think those lessons, they mostly apply to people who have already, you know, they've gotten somewhere. They're not very beginner-friendly lessons, although some of them can apply to beginners. A lot of them did apply that, all right, you're already a little bit out there. And we were like, these were some of the best lessons we've ever heard. So we started buying courses. And we were then reading the Iron Mind course. Well, what was the other ones? The one that Tristan also was a bunch of, the whole Tinder, Instagram, female game, the playing, all of those. Some of them we found online were leaked. I'm very sorry for that, but they were okay. It was right there. I couldn't resist. And the others were bought. I believe the store isn't available. At least I haven't found it. So it was old videos that I had from back then. And the whole, we went to gym every single day. And I remember I had I broken up with my girlfriend back then. And I was really sad about it. And my pal, he came to me and he said, "What would Tate have done?" And we both looked at each other. We just, I was, crying, but I was smiling. I was like, because he knew exactly how to get me going. He was like, "What would Tate have done?" And then we both hit the gym. So the impact of Tate, it has been so easy to go through hard things in life. Because both of us, we just look at each other like, what would Tate have done? And the whole, be able to go through hard things, that trauma builds character, that, you can't be great without having gone through difficult times. And now we kind of strive in challenges because, we have a bunch of stress, we get through it. So now, our stress tolerance is higher. Then we go through more. So, and then things that I would like completely break down over, it's like easy peasy now. It's not, no problem. And that kind of stress tolerance has made it that I can confidently take in high risk jobs. The ones, the tasks, the jobs that they bring in a lot of money, they usually come with a very high risk that, all right, if you mess up, you're kind of done for. And maybe regular freelancers wouldn't dare to take on these jobs because it's, big brand names. And it's kind of the market that, you better not have a bad reputation, because in this market, your reputation, it matters a lot. And your portfolio, it better look pretty. So, yeah, that's been a huge impact on just going through hardships and working nonstop. We had an intern who worked for us a little bit. That didn't work out. That intern wasn't able to keep up. And we had a moment where we had a task that was, until 4 a.m. we worked. For many people, it's not that big of a deal. Until 4 a.m. And then, all right, finally, we're done. We finished, we delivered. went to sleep, but we were like, okay, we can't break our habits. And then back in 7, it was gym. We were tired. We were like, oh, this is going to be one of the worst workouts we've ever had. But we didn't want to break our habits. And
Yep.
it was once again, what would Tate have done? And we both got to the gym 7 in the morning again.
Beautiful. I love that. I love hearing stories like that, and yeah, the positive impact that Tate has had with everything. Okay, so Alex, really appreciate your time. For my final question, if people are still skeptical about joining the real world, they're thinking, for $50, what if I will get scammed? What advice would you have to them?
I would just, my advice would be that it is real. I have been through the whole freelancing part. I've been through that journey outside of the real world. So my answer is not biased because I went through this, outside of the real world. And inside of the real world, I can confirm that everything, it is true. That is the process. That is the things you go through. It is the things you learn. And definitely, no, it's not a scam. Some people say, it's a this or that, or, it doesn't work here, it doesn't work there. Just how it is outside you kind of have to think about it realistically. Well, what was it? 95% of businesses fail? Was it something like that?
Yeah.
If they 95% fail outside, that kind of average number, it follows everywhere. You would assume that those 95% that fail, it's still 95% here. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a scam. That kind of average. But here they specifically teach winning, so actually I would say that number of winning is a lot higher. But just because you hear stories of failure, well, you hear that everywhere. That doesn't mean that it's a scam just because you hear people not making it, not trying hard enough. No, definitely. This works. It works. Everything that was on there, it's full of information, more than you will ever need. And you don't have to interact with anyone. That's my favorite part. That you don't need to directly interact with people and you can still learn a lot of things. So no,
Beautiful.
not a scam. It's the best monthly subscription I have yet.
Right. I mean, where else are you going to get that much value for $50 a month?
Absolutely.
Like before, I used to hear, when I first joined, I'd hear it's the best educational platform on the internet or like something along those lines. And I was thinking, surely there's no way. There's no way that's a thing. But then as I'm doing these success stories and looking more into it, I mean, you really can't find anything better for that price point. And obviously, me saying it is biased because I'm doing the interviews. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced the same thing.
No, definitely. There is nothing. No, I can't find anywhere else that has this amount of knowledge for $50. Sure, maybe there's a book here that has very specific knowledge, but we're talking about just overall volume of knowledge in all aspects of money making. No, for this kind of price point, I've not seen anything else like it. It is like a league of its own. There's no competition.
Okay. So for people who want to find out more about you or contact you, where can they do so?
So, well, I have my website, .com up there, Twitter Studios, and yeah, it's just my email is there, so that is the easiest way.
Okay, so I'll add that to the description of the video. And as I said, Alex, I look forward to doing a follow-up with you at some point in the future to see how things scale. And until then, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.